want to turn to Romans 5 today and just listen to this great statement of God's love and who it is He loved. While we were still helpless, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. For one will hardly die for a righteous man, though perhaps for the good man, someone would dare even to die. But God demonstrates His own love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Much more then, having been justified by His blood, we shall be saved from the wrath of God through Him. For if while we were enemies we were reconciled to God through the death of His Son, much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by His life. If He loved us when we were helpless, ungodly, sinners, and that's the way He described us. Actually, He said He loved us while we were His enemies. Helpless, ungodly, sinful enemies. He said that's when He loved us. And He demonstrated that love by giving His Son for us. Christ died for us. If that's the case, He twice states it. Much more then, having now been justified by His blood, we shall be saved by His life. We shall be saved from the wrath of God through Him. If He loved me while I was His enemy, now that I'm His child, I can kind of bask in the much more love of God. He says it in verse 9, and then He says it again in verse 10. For if while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God through the death of His Son, much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by His life. Now there is one who will come and accuse you. He's called the accuser of the brethren, Satan. And he'll try to tell you that you're not lovable, or that you've disappointed the Lord, or that He no longer loves you. God's word answers, hey, He loved you when you were His enemy. He loved you when you were helpless and ungodly. Now that you're His child, now that you've been reconciled to Him, much more can you bask in His love. Let me encourage you to meditate in Romans 5 and enjoy the much more character of God's love for His children.